Now we have this matrix B, okay, which is a 3 by 3 matrix, and we are asked to show that b to the power of 7 is equals to b, and hence from there we'll need to find b to the power of 9 and b to the power of 44. So we'll need to find b to the power of 2 and b to the power of 3 first. Okay, so let's try calculating b to the power of 2. So b squared here will be b times b, okay, which is 1, 2, 0, negative 1, 0, 2, 1, 1, negative 1, and then we multiply by the same thing again. Okay, and then we'll do the matrix multiplication. So first off, we'll start with the first row. Okay, we'll start with the first row here, and we multiply it to the first column. Okay, so we have 1 times 1. So we have 1 times 1 plus negative 1 times 2 plus 1 times 0. Okay, so that's negative 1. Right, and then we continue on to the next column, column 2. Right, so for that, that will be equals to 1 times negative 1, okay, plus negative 1 times 0 plus 1 times 2. Okay, so that gives us 1. And then we move on to the next column. Right, so we'll take 1. So we have 1 times 1 plus negative 1 times 1 plus 1 times negative 1. So that gives us negative 1. Right, now we move on to the next row. Okay, so now we move on to the second row. Okay, for the first column, so that's 2 times 1. So it's 2 times 1 plus 0 times 2 plus 1 times 0. Okay, so that gives us 2. And then for the second column, okay, second column we have 2 times negative 1 plus 0 times 0 plus 1 times 2. Okay, so we get 0 there. That's 0. And then for the last column, okay, this is for the last column here, 2 times 1 plus 0 times 1 plus 1 times negative 1. Okay, so that's equals to 1. Now we move on to the last row. Okay, the last row here, third row. And then we'll start from the first column. Okay, so there'll be 0 times 1, 0 times 1 plus 2 times 2 plus negative 1 times 0, so that's 4. Okay, and then we move on to the next column. So that will be 0 times negative 1 plus 2 times 0 plus negative 1 times 2. So we get negative 2. And finally, for the last column here, we'll take 0 times 1 plus 2 times 1 plus negative 1 times negative 1. So we get 3. Right, so that is b squared. Now we are not done because we still need to find b to the power of 3 or b cubed. So b cubed here, okay, will be b squared times b. Okay, so we already have the result for b squared. So we'll just have to copy it here. Negative 2, negative 1, 1, and 3. And then we multiply that to b, okay, which is 1, 2, 0, negative 1, 0, 2, 1, 1, negative 1. Okay, so again, I will do the calculation. So we start off with the first row. Okay, we have negative 1, 1, and negative 1 here. Okay, and then we multiply that to the first column. So what do we have? So we'll just multiply that. So negative 1. So negative 1 times 1 plus 1 times 2 plus negative 1 times 0. We have 1. Right, then we move on to the next column. So that will be negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 plus 1 times 0 plus negative 1 times 2. So that's negative 1. And then for the last column, so for the last column, this is negative 1 times 1 plus 1 times 1 plus negative 1 times negative 1. That is equals to 1. Right, and then we move down to the next row. Okay, so for the next row here, we have 2, 0, and 1. Then we multiply to the first column. So that will be 2 times 1 plus 0 times 2 plus 1 times 0. So that's 2. Okay, then move on to the second column. So that's 2 times negative 1 plus 0 times 0 plus 1 times 2. Okay, so that's 0. And then moving on to the last column. Okay, we have 2 times 1 plus 0 times 1 plus 1 times negative 1. Okay, so that's equals to 1. Right, and then we move on to the last row. Okay, the last row here would be 4, negative 2, and 3. Right, so again, we start off with the first column. So we will take 4 times 1. Okay, 4 times 1 plus negative 2 times 2 plus 3 times 0. So we have 0. Okay, and then second column. So that's 4 times negative 1 plus negative 2 times 2 plus 3 times 2. So we get negative 2. And finally, for the last column, we have 4 times 1 plus negative 2 times 1, okay, and then plus 3 times negative 1. Okay, so we get negative 1. Now, what can we deduce about this b to power of 3? So you can see that b to power of 3 is actually equals to b. Okay, so there is one conclusion that we can derive here. Okay, so we can tell from this that b to power of 3 is equals to b. So how do we then use this result to find b to power of 7? How do we show that b to power of 7 is equals to b? So b to power of 7 can be decomposed into b to power of 3 times b to power of 3 times b to power 1. Okay, so 3 plus 1, that will be 7. So if b to power of 3 is equals to b, so we can change b to power of 3 to b, b, and b. So b times b times b, that will be b to power of 3, and b to power of 3 is equals to b. Okay, so hence, so we have shown that b to power 7 is equals to b. Okay, so that concludes the first part. Now for the next part, we need to find what is b to power of 9. So in this case, b to power of 9, if you use index, okay, so b to power of 9 is b to power of 3 times b to power of 3 times b to power of 3. Okay, and b to power of 3 is equals to b. So that's b times b times b, okay, which is b to power of 3 itself. Okay, because there's 1 plus 1 plus 1, so there's 3 for the index. And b to power of 3 is equals to b. Right, so again, this is what b to power of 9 is equals to. Okay, so b to power of 9 is equals to b itself. And then for the next one, which is b to power of 44. So for b to power of 44, we can decompose it into b to power of 9 times b to power of 9. So that is b to power of 18. And then you multiply by another b to power of 9. So that is power 27. And another b to power of 9, that makes it 36. So I can't multiply by b to power of 9 again. Otherwise, it becomes power of 45. Okay, so I can put in a b power 7 here. So 36 plus 7, that's 43. So we just need another b to power of 1 to make it up to power of 44. And we know that from the previous workings that b to power of 9 is equals to b. So I can write this as b, b, b. So there are 4 b's here. And b to power of 7 is also equals to b. And then we have a single b here. So from the first part, b times b times b, that is b to power of 3. And b times b times b here would be b to power of 3. And b to power of 3 is equals to b. Okay, so b times b here would be b squared. Okay, so in other words, b to power of 44 is equals to b squared. Okay, which we computed earlier here. Okay, as negative 1, 1, negative 1, 2, 0, 1, 4, negative 2, and 3. So of course, if you want, you can write out the answer here. Okay, to make it complete. So this is b squared. Okay, which is negative 1, 1, negative 1, and then this is 2, 0, 1, and then this is 4, negative 2, 3. Okay, so that is b to power of 44. And then b to power of 9 earlier, this is equals to b. Okay, so this is 1, negative 1, 1, 2, 0, 1, okay, and 0, 2, negative 1. Okay, so that completes the working. But of course, it's enough to show that b to the power of 9 is equals to b, and b to the power of 4 is equals to b squared.